Hey kids, it's Miss Tannery. I'm trying to be a little bit louder because you told me that you had a hard time hearing me. So here we go with our following our inner conversation lesson. We practiced today and you did a great job. Now what I'm going to do is continue reading. I'm going to model fluent reading. I'm going to stop at the end of every page or every other page so that I have time to write down on my Post-it what I'm thinking, my questions, my comments, my connections, and my interesting words. And what I want you to do when I stop is write down a question, a comment, a connection, or an interesting word on your Post-it at home. So right now, go get 2 or 3 Post-its and a pencil, and make sure you have that ready. Press stop and go. Okay, I hope you're ready with your materials. I'm going to continue reading where I left off yesterday. And I'm just to recap my thinking because I've stopped and I've done a lot of things since I read this book yesterday. So I need to make sure I remember what I read. So I'm going to retell the story. Remember that strategy, retelling the story. Oh yes, and these kids are hiding underneath their bed because soldiers are coming. Their father says they must go and take very little with them. Their mother has to give up her wedding ring. And I remember by looking at my Post-its that I didn't know what the word quay is. So I need to go look that up. So as I continue reading, the fishing boat was small and there were many people. More kept coming and more. We chugged heavily from harbor to open ocean. Can we see America yet, Papa? All the time, my little sister asked questions. Not yet, my father said. Take a moment, write down what you thought. Maybe you have a connection about a little sister or a little brother. I'm going to write that I remember going on trips with my family and I was so excited to get there that I always asked, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So that's a connection. I always ask, are we there yet? Pause the video if you need to write down your connection or your thoughts or your questions or comments. We were an hour from shore when the motors stopped. The men crowded the engines. A part is broken that cannot be fixed. My father told my mother, and her face twisted the way it did when she closed the door of our home for the last time. I bet that means she's scared, afraid, she's terrified, she's anxious about what's going to happen next. So I'm just going to write the word anxious, because that's probably how she's feeling. The women made a sail by knotting clothes together, and when they pulled it high, I saw my father's Sunday shirt blowing in the wind. But the sail carried us back toward our own shore, and men shot at us from the cliffs. At last we got the boat turned in the right direction. How many days to America now? My little sister asked. More, my small one, my father said, and he held us close. I saw him look at my mother across our heads. I think he held them close because he's trying to be brave for his family, but he is probably feeling a little bit afraid himself. So the father is being brave, but is probably scared or afraid. Day followed night and night day. Our food and water ran out and many people are sick. At sunset, sunset, my father and mother and sister and I huddled in the bow. Then my father sang as he sang at home, "Sleep and dream, tomorrow comes and we shall all be free." That was the only time I was not afraid. Take a moment and write down your thoughts on your Post-its. By day we fished and shared the catch. When it rained, we caught the water in our buckets. I slept and dreamed of home, of food, of my favorite uncle who worked with my father in his shop and who had stayed behind. Sometimes I cried and then my mother would rock me against her. Once we saw a whale, gray as an elephant and covered with barnacles. "Come push us, whale," my mother called. "Push us to America." The whale did not hear. Once a boat came roaring close on wings of foam and we were filled with joy, but not for long. Thieves! Fear moved like a bad wind between us. Men scrambled from the other boat to ours, waving their guns, shouting for money and jewels. There was little to take, but what we had went with them. There is so much I'm thinking right now as I'm reading because they're so excited to get to America and already they've suffered so much and have gotten sick and lots have died, and the child in this book is missing her uncle who had to stay home. Immediately I ask myself, why can't the uncle come? Why can't the uncle come? And I feel sad. I feel for this family, for these people on this boat trying to make a better life for their family. And they thought that they were going to get help from these people, but they ended up being thieves. So the word that comes to my mind is disappointment. I bet they're so disappointed. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And we're going to finish up this book next time. But what I'd like for you to do tonight as you read and do your reading log, I want you to use the Post-its I've given you to think about your inner conversation as you read. And we're going to practice it more tomorrow and share our celebrations. And I cannot wait to hear about your questions, your comments, your connections, and those interesting words that we all love to write down. So have a good night. I'm so proud of you. I'll see you tomorrow.